Welcome back to Computers, the Future of Art. With me is my guest Martin Hash from Hash Enterprises, and we're discussing what it's like to be a software designer.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Tell me, Martin, any tips for some young 8-year-old out there? Or
A young 8-year-old, yeah. It's a little early, but I guess you got to get started early. It takes about 6 or 8 years before you're good enough that I can even afford to offer you a job.
Now, you would need to know programming language.
Yes, we program mostly in C, but seeing as how programming languages change about every 4 years, you know, they mature just like everything else. You just have to keep in with whatever the most dominant language is at the time, and don't scatter your resources by going off on some of these fringe languages.
What about game design?
Game design, very fun, but not that lucrative. The games are only alive for about 3 months, so you have to do all your sales in 3 or 4 months.
Is it a good exercise in programming to develop
Oh, definitely.
a game?
I started a couple of games. You know, you can't make a living from it, but they're certainly fun.
It'd be good groundwork anyway.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
Well, now, you brought some more of your work that you've done. Tell me, what kinds of software do you have on the market now that somebody could look for?
Okay, the first thing you need to look for is a 3D modeler. We offer one called Animation Apprentice. We're the only one, I'm talking about big systems too. We do what's called organic modeling, meaning we do people and characters and Smurfs, all that kind of thing.
Now, a 3D modeling system, would that be the software package, or is that something that attaches to the hardware?
That's a software package.
Okay.
And then there's other kinds of 3D modeling. I call it mechanical modeling, and they're polygons, and everything looks very, very machinery-like.
That's
Ours
right,
doesn't look
flat
like that at all.
surfaces.
Right. Ours doesn't look like that at all. It looks almost clay in some respects.
Do you use light sources as well?
Yeah, we
Reflection,
have a
refraction?
light source that you can move around, and
Gives
we
a
get
more realistic
that,
effect.
Absolutely, yes.
What do we have here now?
Okay, the Eagle was done with one of my programs called Animation Apprentice. It's full 3D. It couldn't have been done with anything else on a small system. And then the background is simply a digitized picture, and we gen-locked it over the top. All Amiga, this is in a front room here. This is just home equipment.
Now we're talking high-tech on
They're talking high-tech on a $400 video recorder. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That terrain is done by my competition, but I'm not too proud to use the best of what's out there. This is a picture in Australia, and again we just fly the Eagle over it. This is a water generation program that we have the Eagle gen-locked again over the top of the water, so the background is separate from the Eagle. The Eagle was done over a neutral background, and the computer does all the substitution. This is, of course, the end of a political cartoon is what this is. That's the American Eagle.
Now, you actually used real landscape backgrounds, and then you overlapped the animation.
Yes, and it really adds to the realism. We're trying to impart a sense of empathy so that you can believe in these characters. And anything to do that, any little trick is what's required.
Did you see the movie Roger Rabbit?
Yes, we did. Yeah, many times.
And there's that same concept of overlaying animation with real figures. Or
yeah, I wish somebody
people.
paid me $30 million to do something for
to
them.
do
yeah.
that.
That was so well done that it's hard to the animation is catching on again. It was in a real dry spell here for about 20 years.
I think you're right. I think it is catching on.
Hanna-Barbera, their inexpensive Saturday morning output, just about disintegrated what people expected from animation.
What do we have here now?
All right, this is another one of my programs called Animation Effects. And it does, we call it the poor man's ADO, which is a device that does flips and tumbles and spins on TV shows. And we simply are watching one of my customers. All these pieces are done by my customers. I'm not showing any of my stuff.
These are people that bought the software,
and they're proud of what they do, and they send it to me, and then I call them up and say, hey, this is really a great piece. This stuff here, I just can't believe these people. They do a lot of animation. They've got the biggest, most blown out Amiga I've ever seen, and they just use this animation and do all these things. It's just amazing. I didn't know my programs could do half
of this stuff. I was going to say, part of the excitement of being a software developer is that you can't really anticipate what a user might do.
Right. This is less than $50, the package that does this. And look at all that. Look at that transparency on that fish. This is going to flip around and have a title on the reverse side. It's all done in high resolution. Look at all those colors.
You got a perspective dropping.
That's right. There's going to be some little things bouncing across here. They make a living. This is make a living. They make a living doing these. This is opening credits for then they have video in between.
So for the home user, if you had your home videos, you could get also with the computer, then you could do all your title screens.
Yep, we do that all the time. The Amiga, as an example, we also have other other programs and other computers. But the Amiga, for example, has built-in very low-cost devices that do all the things that you can usually do in a TV station. Of course, it doesn't do it at that level, but it does it well enough that you could do it. Anyone could do it.
Now, you're currently developing software as well for other computers?
Yes, we have a big push on the Mac II. I think that's a much more lucrative market. Then we have IBM versions, but that's very difficult because of their choice of a processor. However, they have a new processor out in their PS2
With
series.
the PS2s?
Right? It's not. I'm going to use a technical term. It is not segmented memory, and that's what's really killing us. However, when we went into the IBM market to overcome its liabilities, we actually improved our other products in the meantime.
Interesting how you can learn from that. This kaleidoscope looks almost like a regular kaleidoscope.
Yeah, we kind of figured maybe these guys came from Tijuana. I mean, it is the garish colors I've ever seen. However, it catches your attention, and that's what computer animation's all about. These people are not artists. I can guarantee you. The guy can hardly spell his name as far as readability. And, and yet he did all of this.
What's the software using this now?
This is Animation Effects.
Animation Effects.
Animation Effects.
And is it in 2D or 3D?
It's all 2D, but it flips things in 3D.
So it appears to be 3D.
Right. It appears to be no thickness, but the thing flipping around in 3 space.
So you would design actually the images in a 2D image, and then you could move them. Is it all keyboard, entered through keyboard, or
it's all
joysticks,
actually
or?
Graphics. You have the Amiga supports graphics, as does the Mac II.
Like a little icon
That's
or something?
Right. And you move it around and you say what you want it to do. And then it takes maybe 10, 20 minutes for you as the director to choreograph what you want this animation piece to do. We call those vignettes because they're only about 5 seconds long. Then the computer runs maybe overnight on some extreme cases, and you have this little 5-second piece of animation that will play back on your computer. Then you tie the vignettes together, add your soundtrack, maybe do some gen locking all on your videotape as a final post-processing.
And you can take it right to video.
Right to video, yeah.
Does it take a lot of skill for the user, or do you develop it in such a way that you try and make it user-friendly?
Well, user-friendly is a misleading term. There are some computer people, especially those who've been in there a long time, that feel that they have to crack open the manual. That's a personal affront to them. And so they think anything that they can't use without a manual, that's not user-friendly. Well, 3D animation does not fit that category.
Okay,
you have to.
look into the manual.
It's like anything else. If you just found a saxophone in a room somewhere and blew on it, you'd say, I can't make music out of this. Yet you find somebody who knows how to play the saxophone and beautiful music comes out. It's the same thing with software.
Same kind. So you have to pay some dues even in this kind of business.
That's right. Now, of course, if you're not an artist, no matter how many dues you pay, you'll never be an artist. And what a computer does is allow all of the faults that you may have in your own abilities to overcome all of that, so that at least your storytelling ability becomes the #1 thing. And after all, it's a story. It's not the gimmicks. And animation hasn't changed. It's just now there's some way that you and I can do it.
How long an animation can you make? 1 minute, 2 minutes?
We've done 8-minute animations on the videotape. It's the longest, and you're talking about 2 to 3 hours of post-production per minute. So
is that the tape editing?
That's
that sort
the tape
of thing,
editing and getting the soundtrack synced up. So there's a lot of that too, and it's fun. I mean, it's not difficult. It's very technical.
So you are designing for the home market, the home user, rather than the big corporation.
Well, for example, these Chromosources here, these were done on $1 million machines, and I do have a product coming out that's going to compete with that.
That should be real interesting.
But you know, somebody could not do that in their front room. However, I have dinosaurs. I have some dinosaurs that I sell. I sell them for $19, right? And somebody could do dinosaurs that are very close to that, and they can do it in their front room. So
amazing. How do you go about marketing? If somebody wanted your product, how would they find it?
Well, we originally started, we were babes in the woods, and it's a good thing we started off in a chaos market like the Amiga market, because we've made a lot of mistakes. And our packaging was embarrassing, and our software was more so. And I didn't know what I was doing. And of course, all the big companies were trying to snatch me up because they knew a good thing when they'd seen it. So I flew around the country and interviewed with different companies that wanted my products. Then we gradually, I mean, I do have an MBA and I'm out there trying to make a living, and we gradually improved and are continuing to improve.
You learn.
Pretty soon we got distributors that call up and order before they even seen the product. And that's where we are today. And I feel that we have a long way to go, yet now I get quoted in magazines, I get asked to speak. I'm the chair of many panels and, you know, when we have discussions. I had a lot of groups, and so it's really coming together now.
Are there a lot of software developers out there, or is that kind of a narrow field in a sense?
That is so narrow. There's a lot of people who think they're software developers, but until you have a product and you can make a living, and there's a lot of folks that start software projects and you just can't finish. In fact, my biggest the one thing I can say for anybody trying to get in, my advice is, if you're going to go to an employer, finish a project and take it to them.
So you've got something
That's
to show
right,
'em.
because see, they don't want to hear your dreams. They hear that every day.
Yeah, it's gotta be
but
a
if you
workable
finish, no matter what
project.
it is, if you finish it, they're going to pay more attention to you actually getting that done, because these projects are huge.
What do you got coming out in the future?
Oh,
that
we have
can
a
look
new.
forward
We
to?
have our first product was called Apprentice, and that was in mind. We were going to call our next one Journeyman. Journeyman's coming out here next year, and it's full 3D hard math.
I see. I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. I see we have run out of time.
Okay.
I'd like to thank our viewers for joining us. My name's Craig Clark. I'm the host of Computers, the Future of Art. My guest, Martin Hash. I'd like to thank our viewers and thank our guests for joining us.
Thank you.
Goodbye and happy computing.